The FIFA World Cup 2026 Africa qualifiers match schedule is up for match day 5. In Group F, the Gambia will host Harambee Stars on Thursday, 20th of March from 10 p.m.
Shown, and which may show here. And yes, the breakthrough's there for Kenya.
Catch the action live from Alassane Ouattara Stadium in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, live and exclusive. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
The two sessions, China's annual political season, brings together the country's lawmakers and political advisors to chart the way forward for the nation.
It captures the global attention as geopolitical and economic tensions rise.
So what impact will this have on Africa?
We take an in-depth look at China's two sessions and explore what lies ahead for Africa.
Join us for a special program on CGTN and the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.
More problems. Why senators are fuming at members of parliament over budget cuts? Will parliament yield this time around? And why the agricultural sector is in a financial dire strait following development partners' budget cuts? The question is, who will save this critical sector? A good conversation is coming up here in about 45 minutes from now. I encourage you to stick by so that you can watch and listen. We are right on time. This is the Prime Edition with me, O'Brien Kimani. And of course, we are live from Broadcasting House. And before we kick the stories, let's first of all have a look at the highlights. Are you a first-time national ID applicant? Good news as President Ruto declares the service free of charge. $80,000 new teachers posted to junior secondary schools amid calls for teachers' capacity building to boost CBC implementation. Agriculture CS Mutahi Kagwe orders the destruction of 26,000 bags of expired fertilizer. And National Assembly approves the second revision of 2024-25 national budget as senators call for increased funding to the counties. Many thanks for joining us. Brian Muraru is our sign language interpreter. Remember, we are live on YouTube at KBC News and, of course, at O'Brien Kimani is my ex-handle, and at KBC Channel 1 is our official page. Welcome to the Bulletin. President William Ruto has ordered that all Kenyans applying for national identity cards for the first time should not be charged. The president, who made the announcement on the fourth day of his development tour of Nairobi County, said the directive will end discrimination in the issuance of the vital document. At the same time, the head of state, who toured Langata and Kibra constituencies, said he's willing and ready to work with all leaders from political formations to end political rivalry and divisions in the country.
Mukaongeza ingine Zakayo, mukaongeza ingine sasa Kasongo. Sasa hii majina yote munaongeza mpaka itafika wapi?
On his fourth-day tour of Nairobi County, President William Ruto traversed Langata and Kibra constituencies. In Langata, he launched an affordable housing program where 15,000 housing units will be constructed before visiting Langata Technical and Vocational Training College and Booth Secondary School. In Kibra, the president visited Ayani Primary School, where he served lunch to pupils before making another stop at Kibra Technical College.
El Chapo mwenyewe Mheshimiwa TJ Kajwang', asante.
President Ruto's Thursday tour of the capital city culminated in a rally at DCC Kibra grounds,
Na tunajua sisi wote hapa Kibra ndio bedroom ya baba,
where he ordered that henceforth national identification cards will be issued free of charge for first-time applicants.
Kila mwananchi apatiwe nini? Kitambulisho. Na mimi nataka nitangaze nikiwa hapa Kibra leo ya kwamba kitambulisho ipatianwe bila malipo yoyote. Kila mtu apatiwe kitambulisho bila malipo na kwa mpango ambayo haina ubaguzi kwa Wakenya.
He also thanked supporters of Raila Odinga for embracing the recently signed pact between the United Democratic Alliance and the Orange Democratic Movement.
Mimi na Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga tumekubaliana. Tumesema ya kwamba hakuna jamii ambayo imeweka application kuwa wageni hapa Kenya. Hakuna jamii ambayo ni wakimbizi katika taifa letu. Hakuna jamii ambayo ni wageni katika taifa letu la Kenya. Jamii zote zilizoko Kenya ziko Kenya kwa mapenzi ya Mungu.
Sisi tuko nyuma yenu kuunganisha Kenya. Nairobi hatujui mambo ya ukabila. Shida ya Mkikuyu ni sawa na shida ya Mjaluo, ni sawa na shida ya Mkisii, ya Msomali, ya Mnubi. We will remain united behind you and Baba Raila Amolo Odinga. Sisi kama wanachama ODM tuko nyuma yako na tutatembea na wewe hadi tuende mahali tunafika. Ukitembea na Raila Amolo Odinga, sisi ni wafuasi wa Odinga, sisi ni wafuasi wako.
The head of state also instructed the Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi to put up streetlights in Kibra.
Tutatangaza karandasi ya kuweka street lights katika hii Kibra Drive yote mpaka Bomolulu Road.
In his day 4 tour of the Nairobi County, President William Ruto toured Langata and Kibra constituencies, where he defended his ties with Raila Odinga, saying it is a move to close political ranks and bring unity in the country. Giverson Maina, Prime Edition in Kibra, Nairobi.
The water and sanitation sector has lost more than 19 billion shillings, which has been reallocated to other programs as the National Assembly approved the second supplementary estimates for the year 2024-2025 financial year. The energy sector is also one of the major losers, with the 8.8 billion shillings being slashed from the budget. This comes as the House approved an overall increase of more than 113 billion shillings in the total budget for the year 2024-2025 financial year.
The country has increased its 2024-25 financial budget by 113.7 billion shillings in meeting the expenditure for the executive, parliament and judiciary.
approve an overall increase in the total budget for the financial year 2024-2025 by Kenya shillings 113,797,235,344 in meeting the expenditure for the national executive, parliament and the judiciary during the year ending 30th June 2025 in respect of the votes as contained in the schedule. As many other opinions say aye. As many opinions say nay. The ayes have.
In the allocations, the water and sanitation sector has lost more than 19 billion. The energy sector, 6.89 billion.
Arise to support the reduction and also note the increase of 350 million for electrification of public facilities and the other increase of 100 million for the installation of transformers in constituencies. This is an item which is long overdue, and I hope once we pass this budget, they'll go with speed to provide those transformers and providing electricity to schools.
And the livestock budget reduced by 1.83 billion. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has also seen a reduction of 120 million shillings in their monies. Forestry also lost 302 million shillings. While various sectors have received an additional allocation, members raised concern, noting that the increase is a lot and should not come in the supplementary but in the annual estimates to deal with only emergencies.
And that the presidency gives a good example in terms of use of public resources. Because what I'm seeing is this office, Honorable Speaker, the presidency is actually getting a lot of increase, while very critical areas, as we'll be seeing as we go down, you see they are not getting increases. So I think they need to balance, because we know what the president does.
Meanwhile, senators have intensified their push for increased funding to counties, arguing that the proposed allocations in the 2025 budget policy statement are insufficient to support devolved functions. While debating the 2025 budget policy statements, senators raised concern about the growing financial burden on counties.
Has recommended setting aside 13.9 billion from the expected collection of RMLF for financial year 2025-2026 and a proportionate amount as a share of the 175 billion to be able to also facilitate county government.
In the report, Senate Finance Committee has proposed that the county equitable share for the 2025-2026 financial year be increased to 465 billion shillings, up from 387 billion shillings allocated in the previous year. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
And of course, we shall be here to see where the debate goes next. 77,000 teachers have been employed by the Teachers Service Commission and posted to junior schools to implement the competency-based curriculum and guide learners in choosing career pathways. The Commission has also called for the upskilling of teachers who are struggling to teach some subjects. Speaking during a county dialogue on education reforms, where guidelines for the transition of grade 9 learners to senior schools were launched, Cabinet Secretary for Education Julius Ogamba emphasized the need for collaboration among leaders, parents, as well as learners.
9 years since the inception of the competency-based curriculum, several hitches still being experienced. Speaking during a county dialogue on education reforms, the Teacher Service Commission lauded the government's employment of more teachers to implement the curriculum. However, the Commission disclosed that some teachers were not well skilled.
The Commission has recruited and deployed primary and junior teachers to implement the competence-based curriculum, and currently we have 76,765 teachers recruited and posted to junior schools.
That there are certain subjects or learning areas that require a combination of efforts of different teachers, not what they were just trained on. And one that they have specifically identified is creative arts and sports.
With the grade 9 learners expected to transit to senior secondary school, the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Julius Ogamba, urged parents to collaborate with teachers in guiding their children in choosing careers.
The other system, there was a lot of mix-up, especially when career choices, when students come to career choices. You'd find that somebody has done a degree or something, and then they say this was done for my parents. Now, this curriculum-based education is establishing clear paths.
He also stated the government's commitment to scale up capacity building for teachers, employ more teachers, and enlighten parents on how to guide their children.
Of Education commits to do the following. We'll continue strengthening the teacher workforce, particularly in the STEM and technical subjects, to ensure that every learner gets the attention they deserve. We will work with stakeholders, including the NGCDF and development partners, to expand classroom capacity, build laboratories, and enhance ICT integration in schools.
At the forum, the ministry launched guidelines for transitioning of learners from junior school to senior school.
We'll be looking at the learning areas that are offered in junior school. You will find that there is a lot of focus on exploration, that learners are exposed to very many learning areas so that they are able to explore all these learning areas as they try to fit into their career paths.
Categorization of schools will be 4. 1, pathways. That's very important. 2, gender. 3, accommodation. 4, special needs.
The curriculum requires learners in grade 9 to choose one career pathway among the 3, which are arts and sports, social sciences, and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. After their Kenya Junior School Education Assessment, learners will transit to senior school according to their area of specialization and undertake 7 subjects, of which 4 will be compulsory. These are languages, physical education, community service, and learning ICT skills. Learners pursuing technical subjects under STEM will get an extra certificate known as an artisan certificate, where one will be eligible to work under apprenticeship and advance their skills. KICC Namasha, Prime Edition.
A section of civil society organizations is calling for the amendment of existing laws to introduce a clause on femicide as cases of gender-based violence continue to rise. During a consultative meeting held in Nairobi County on Thursday, the CSOs emphasized the urgent need for legislation to end femicide, pointing out that current ones do not specifically address the crime, despite the increasing number of fatalities.
In recent years, Kenya has seen a disturbing rise in femicide cases. Since 2016, at least 500 women and girls have been murdered in the country. This is despite efforts to prevent gender-based violence, according to the Africa Data Hub, a regional network of data organizations that tracks such killings based on media reports. Now, a section of civil society organizations say current laws such as the Sexual Offences Act cannot effectively tackle the issue.
Maybe femicide could have started from a domestic violence. And if you find that a woman is killed, maybe the woman was raped, she was also assaulted, and then she was killed. So there are like 3 counts there. So how can we have a clause that caters for all that and ensure that we're having a very strong law and also a very strong, very harsh penalty for the perpetrators of femicide?
They called for more advocacy and public sensitization campaigns to inform the public about the legal frameworks available.
I'll give an example of the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act, which broadens the scope of what a domestic relationship is and the safeguards that exist in that, the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act, and how somebody can seek restraining orders. So a lot of people are not aware. The law is that, but people are not aware, and this hampers implementation and even impedes the safeguards that are being provided by law.
And to the best of my ability. Resolutions of the meeting will be forwarded to the task force appointed by President William Ruto, among others, investigating the root causes of femicide and propose practical solutions to reduce its prevalence. Jacqueline Masharia for Prime Edition.
And of course, you're watching the Prime Edition with me, O'Brien Kimani. I told you we have a great conversation that is coming up here. We're looking at the impact of donor funding on the agriculture sector. Well, that conversation is coming up here after the break. Stay right here.
Inuka na loto moto. Sasa kwa star 570 hash option ya 4 kuna kashamba juja na nika 50 by 100 worth 1.7 million Kenyan shillings. Na hii si shamba tu, iko kwa prime location, few minutes from Juja Town. Stima yako iko ndani, na kama ni development rapid and so promising. Na mambo ya landlord, mwisho wa mwanzo ni hapa. Ukishinda hili shamba tunakuongeza 1 million Kenyan shillings ujijengee nyumba yako kwa shamba yako. Kuinuka na loto moto ni kucheza sasa hivi kupitia star 570 hash option ya 4 au register deposit na ucheze sasa hivi kwa www.tushinde.com na ujishindie shamba hili na addition of 1 million Kenyan shillings. Inuka na loto moto.
From the bliss of new beginnings to the trials of commitment, this is a celebration of resilience, passion, and the power of togetherness. Join us as we unravel real-life stories, because every journey deserves to be cherished, for better, for worse, on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back. You're watching the Prime Edition live from Broadcasting House. Well, Kenya today marked the World Kidney Day with a focus on raising awareness about kidney health and the critical need for kidney transplant. The event has sparked calls for faster progress on the finalization of the Kenya Transplant Service Bill, which would pave the way for the commencement of kidney transplant using deceased donor organs. This comes as the country's health authorities were commended for their continued efforts, particularly in improving post-operative care for kidney transplant patients.
On World Kidney Day, experts and stakeholders in the healthcare industry gathered at the Kenyatta National Hospital to discuss the importance of kidney health. In Kenya, 4.7 million people suffer from chronic kidney disease, according to Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, Director of Medical Services at the Kenyatta National Hospital.
If policy inaction is not reversed now, chronic kidney disease will be the 5th leading cause of years of life lost in 2040. We are encouraged to lead a healthy lifestyle, access to clean water, exercise, and healthy diet.
Those suffering from kidney disease, especially children, urged for more support.
The moment that I was diagnosed with kidney disease and I was put on dialysis, having to come for dialysis treatment twice weekly and also balancing between my studies and my health, that was really quite a challenge for me.
Dr. Catherine Nyongesa called for the inclusion of kidney health in the universal health coverage to encourage screenings as a primary health intervention. She commended the government for including post-transplant care for kidney transplant patients in the Social Health Authority SHA and increased number of patients accessing dialysis.
Over the last 10 years, the number of people on regular hemodialysis has increased more than tenfold, from 300 to more than 7,000 presently. This is largely attributable to the important role that SHIV and SHA is playing in reimbursing the costs of dialysis.
There was renewed calls to fast-track the finalization of the Kenya Transplant Service Bill, which will allow for deceased donor organ transplant in Kenya, making it possible to address the severe shortage of available kidney donors. Marie Ambo reporting for the Prime Edition.
The Senate Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity now wants the affordable housing project implemented primarily through the National Housing Corporation instead of private developers. The committee, while engaging the corporation, observed that private developers awarded contracts to develop the houses were selling them at double the market price, despite getting tax incentives from the government. The National Housing Corporation revealed that at least 22 billion shillings that was supposed to be appropriated from the housing levy was yet to be availed.
Ultimately, the question would be,
why don't the government support national housing to do all the houses or most of it, so that the benefit goes to the people of Kenya in terms of this organization, which is a government institution, doing this kind of houses. So you need to tell us, where are you placed? Because we passed this law, and what we are seeing, what we passed this law for, we are not seeing it helping Kenyans. So just tell us when you come back again, because so that we can, from there now we will know how much money did you receive for affordable housing, what levies do you receive. You are also getting some rental income, if I'm not wrong, because there is some service charges I'm seeing here. Tell us how much you are receiving from your rental income, of course minus expenditures.
And First Lady Rachel Ruto has called for more funding for school feeding programs in the county. Speaking during the rollout of the pilot phase of the National School Milk Program at the Testai Primary School in Nakuru County, the First Lady urged leaders, organizations and stakeholders to finance such programs, adding that it will ensure retention of needy students in schools. First Lady Initiative Feed One End Hunger program intends to support the government plans to ensure 10 million kids access a decent meal by the year 2030.
The teachers here will also agree with me that educating a hungry child is a challenging task. A well-fed child is more attentive, active, and likely to thrive in their studies. I urge all leaders present today to advocate for an increased budget for school meal programs at the national and county levels, ensuring they include a dedicated school meal program.
On to the corridors of justice, where police allegedly refused to help Rex Masai, who was bleeding profusely from a gunshot wound during the June 2024 Gen Z protest against the finance bill. Testifying in the inquest into the Masai's death, two witnesses said they heard police officers tell a youth who had sought their help for Rex in Swahili, "Mwacheni akufie hapo," loosely translated, "let him die there." The court was also informed that the protest had been peaceful for most of the day until around 5 p.m. when police reportedly moved in aggressively. This and more in our Skills of Justice segment.
A border rider and a poultry farmer on Thursday told the court they overheard police officers telling a Gen Z protester who was seeking their help for a protester lying in a pool of blood, "Let him die there."
Mwenzake nikasikia akiambia polisi awasaidie. So nikasikia polisi amesema wacha akufia hapo huyo.
Laban Njoroge and Mekatilili Mweru told a public inquest into the hearing of Masai's fatal shooting that he wasn't able to identify the young man who was lying in a pool of blood, but he heard the officers utter the said words.
When we went there, I sat like on the floor, in the corner. So I was in one corner, Laban was on this other side.
The witness explained that he too was in pain, having been beaten by police officers, and hence lacked the strength to help the young man.
I was scared that maybe another team of police would maybe kill us or something, or maybe beat us in the same way.
The inquest into Rex Masai's tragic death continues on May 12th with more testimonies expected to shed more light on what transpired on the fateful day.
So the matter will proceed for hearing on 12th of May 2025, 9th of June 2025, and 19th of June 2025.
Elsewhere, three-judge bench of the High Court has ruled that it has jurisdiction to hear the Aberdare Rangers Road construction case. Justices Lucy Gisheru, Benade Bosso and James Olola said Kenya Wildlife Services and the contractor did not prove beyond reasonable doubt why the matter should be heard by the Constitutional Court and not the ELC Court.
And appellate jurisdiction to hear and determine all disputes in accordance with Article 162B of the Constitution and with the provisions of this Act or any other law applicable in Kenya relating to environment and land.
The petition will now proceed at the ELC court with the hearing set for 27th, 28th and 29th May, followed by a site visit.
It is the Environment and Land Court which is conferred with the jurisdiction to deal with the same. Accordingly, we come to the conclusion that the court has jurisdiction and the preliminary objection is not merited. The same is dismissed with cause in the cause.
And the Milimani's Anti-Corruption Court will rule on Friday, 14th March on a 14-day detention order for 3 suspects accused of impersonating EACC investigators to extort money from the public. The accused James Mbovi, Mike Mudhami and Rafael Muthoka were arrested on March 11, 2025 at the 3-Art Bar in Komarok following multiple complaints by members of the public.
And allowing this motion to sail through would be prejudicial to my clients who have been held for over 24 hours.
Investigators recovered several mobile phones and SIM cards suspected to be used in the fraud.
To enable us, or to enable this court to dispense justice, because there is critical information.
In a separate matter, a church minister has denied stealing and uttering false documents from Word of Life Ministries. Pastor Daniel Munalo is alleged to have stolen 23 million shillings from Word of Life Center and Church Ministries between 2019 and 2021.
Your Honor, he can only afford 500,000. He was released on a police bail of 100,000.
Court documents reveal that Munalo, acting as an agent of the church, fraudulently altered financial records and attempted to change bank details to facilitate the crime.
A bond of 10 million plus 2 sureties of similar amount or a cash bail of 2 million.
The pre-trial is set for March 25th.
Okay, fine.
Ruth Wamboy for Prime Edition.
Well, time now to focus on the latest from the world of business, where the government will seize assets of employees who squandered billions of shillings from the Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives. Well, Cooperatives Cabinet Secretary Wycliffe Oparanya says no SACCO will lose their savings from the troubled umbrella union. Oparanya says the government has recovered 136 million shillings from the sale of the vehicles seized from Cusco.
The government's asset recovery efforts have so far reclaimed 32 vehicles and several houses from former Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives assets as part of the broader initiative to recover the 13 billion shillings lost in investments. Cooperatives Cabinet Secretary Wycliffe Oparanya says some assets have been sold off, enabling the compensation of small depositors.
And we are going to do this progressively as we realize some of the assets that we feel they are necessary to be held by Cusco, which they can be disposed of. And when they are disposed of, then these liabilities can be settled.
The crackdown will also target Cusco's officials and SACCO's executives who conspire to defraud members of their savings.
As a ministry, we directed that the SACCOs take cognizance of the fact that this money is not available immediately. But through our efforts, we are very optimistic that this money is recoverable. It might take 2 years, it might take 3 years, but as a safeguard and based on the financial principle of conservatism, we have said SACCOs can make a provision for that money.
To tighten regulation, a committee of experts has been appointed to review the Sacco Societies Act of 2008 by, among others, removing the Central Finance Fund from KUSCO and establishing a Central Liquidity Fund that will be regulated by SASRA.
Now it is up to us in the ministry now to come up with, to make sure that the amendment goes through, that is one, and secondly, to lay out regulation to make that operational.
Oparanya noted that weak legislation allowed KUSCO officials to exploit loopholes as the lobby group operated unregulated and is not under SASRA's oversight. Wairi Mujenga for Prime Edition.
Well, visitors to the Kenyatta International Conference Center or Convention Center will soon enjoy choreographed water displays at the synced with various musical genres such as patriotic Kenyan tunes, classical symphonies and contemporary music. The final stretch of upgrade is ongoing with iconic fountain system incorporating artificial intelligence, robotics and solar energy as part of its sustainable tourism attractions strategies.
The iconic water fountains at the Kenyatta International Convention Center are currently dry. Works are ongoing in a 100 million shillings facelift that integrates a smart technology, leveraging artificial intelligence. Once complete, the facility will have choreographed water displays that are synced with various musical genres such as patriotic Kenyan tunes, classical symphonies, and contemporary music, all one with AI.
Looking on sustainability, we are going to connect the fountains to our solar plant. We have a 200 kVA solar plant installed at Savo, and so we're going to use the output of that solar plant to drive the facilities here. Like this fountain here has got 30 motors ranging from capacity from 2.2 kilowatts to 8 kilowatts. So this consumes a lot of power. But we have gone ahead and we're going to connect it to our solar system so that we save on the power.
The fountains can propel water up to 70 meters high while dynamically adjusting height, color, and movement patterns based on preset sequences. Additionally, the integration of solar energy aligns with sustainability goals, minimizing reliance on conventional power sources.
Vendors selling food and drinks, you can have a seat and enjoy a show from the dancing fountains. And it will be the only one in Africa. So we're very excited about that also, being the pioneers and the lead in the continent to really reshape the MICE business and tourism in general.
The initiative is part of efforts to the venue's attractiveness and ability to host a diverse range of events. The system is designed for efficiency, with the ability to recycle 1 million liters of water for up to 6 months. KICC is also advancing its digital infrastructure with a high-tech advertising platform on its tower and the redevelopment of the 27th floor revolving restaurant.
Jet A1, cheza avieta bila data bila credo. Dial *892# for instant takeoff. Pepea bila pressure kucrash au kucash out. Avieta bila data, avieta bila credo. Uko na kabambe, wewe pia ni rubani mnoma. Dial *892#. Jet A1, michezobet.com. Cheza kwa kuwajibika. Kushiriki ni miaka 18 au zaidi. BCLB license number 0000664.
The world of governance is vast and can be alien to the ordinary man on the street. Critical issues are going to be discussed. From white papers to policy positions, it is easier to get lost in the labyrinth of words.
Inside Government takes you to key global metropolis where critical decisions are made and where policies are crafted.
We interview policymakers and senior government officials to highlight and enumerate government policies and projects. We take a deep dive into the underbelly of complex red tape to demystify policies across the country, across the world. Join me, O'Brien Kimani, on Inside Government, only on KBC Channel 1. You know, agriculture remains a key component of economic development, not only here in Kenya, but in Africa. I mean, when you look at this sector, I mean, its contribution to Kenya's GDP is almost 25%. And so this is a critical sector when you look at it. And of course, it has been facing many challenges from climate change, funding cuts, and of course, outmoded technologies. And so the question is, how do we move agriculture forward? Well, Martin Susan is the Managing Director of Moving Frontiers. Is now joining us here. He has worked in the agriculture value chain for a long time, not only here in Africa, in Kenya, and of course in Netherlands as well. And so he has an idea of how to develop the agriculture sector. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Susan.
Martin.
Martin, well, let's call you Martin. Help us understand, if you were to define the challenges facing this critical industry, how, in three words, how would you describe it?
Well, I probably need more than 3 words, but I'll keep it very short.
Yeah.
Right? I came to Africa 17 years ago, and I came to Mozambique to set up an agricultural bank. And 17 years ago, we talked about the same issues we talk about today. And it's almost like the drama of agriculture and agriculture finance in Africa. And my take is, you know, if you look at countries like Colombia, Turkey, Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, we never talk about agriculture as something that is difficult to finance. So obviously there are a few things that we need to discuss and that now need to change. The time is there.
What is that?
All right. So if you would ask anyone, what is the problem with agriculture? Most people will say it's access to credit, access to finance. If only we had finance, you know, the region would grow very, very fast, or the sector would grow. But actually it's a lot more than that. It's coordinated planning, right? It's value chain integration. It is finance, and not just access to finance, but also the cost of finance is very important. You cannot finance agriculture at double-digit interest rates. But let's be totally honest, to an extent, it's also a lack of ambition, right? Kenya is a country of smallholder farmers. That's in our genes, right? And that will be for
90% of our farmers.
Absolutely.
Are small-scale farmers.
And they're very important for the economy. But to drive food security going forward, we also need a different segment of highly competitive, highly commercial farming that can scale and that can produce quality at low cost.
Look, you see, when you look at, for example, countries like India, I mean, you know, about 30 years ago, they were going through challenges of agriculture like we are doing today, but they came up with agricultural Marshall plans, you know, that have managed to allow them to move from food insecure nations to food secure countries. That has been the aspiration of many African countries. Why are we not achieving this? Are we putting our money where our mouth is, or what is the challenge?
Well, that's a very good question. And I wish I had one concise answer for you. But to start with India, the transformation of India has been, I think, astonishing. But in the area of finance, India did something that we sometimes talk about, but, you know, it's controversial. India came with a policy called mandatory priority lending, essentially telling banks to act in a concerted effort, and banks were required to finance X percentage of their loan portfolios in agriculture. And it didn't have to be farmers. The agri-food systems are very complex and very deep and very diverse. I mean, banks can also finance processors, can finance aggregators, logistics, exporters. But everybody played a role in India to play their part and build the sector in a sustainable manner. And that is something we can draw inspiration from.
Look, every year, I mean, you have billions of shillings, you know, and especially here in Kenya, going to fund agriculture projects, you know, irrigation, innovation, extension services, and so much. And this has been the trend since Kenya gained independence back in 1963. And so why then would we still be discussing the issues of funding as a challenge to agriculture, really?
Yeah, I think what is needed, and I think let's step back one moment and sort of recognize that the world as we knew it until 2 months ago doesn't exist anymore. Right? We're in a period of high geopolitical uncertainty, and it's now Africa, time to stand up, build Africa, buy Africa. But why are we still talking about that? I think what we now need to do is a joint national forum, a public-private sector forum. And I'll tell you a little bit in a moment about what we're doing with the FINAS 25 conference we're organizing. But we need an ongoing forum, a dialogue, to solve the issues that we have agreed to solve as part of the Kampala Declaration back 2 months ago. Right? And that is to increase productivity by 50% over the next 10 years, to tackle the area of post-harvest losses, to think about nutrition, and a whole range of other things. The time has never been better to now act and come together.
I like that desire, but when you look at the factors that are prevailing, I mean, post-harvest losses, you know, about 25% of all foods harvested in Africa, they go to waste through post-harvest losses. When you look at production, it has declined by almost 20% in the last 10 years because of climate change. So how are you going to turn this around?
By working together. And I'm so happy that you bring up post-harvest losses, because that is something I've been talking about for so many years. Not only me, and now even the Kampala sort of declaration talks about post-harvest losses. Now, post-harvest losses across different value chains are in the region of 30%. And that is to cry about. So what I would like to see is that we would somehow declare, maybe under the leadership of the Ministry of Agriculture, the year of post-harvest loss reduction. And that means a whole range of activities involving banks, financiers, lenders, farmers, processors. Get the best brains together that we have and say, look, we're not going to solve this within 12 months. But the agenda is that over the next 3-4 years, we're going to halve post-harvest losses by 50%. And we won't talk about 30% by the end of, say, 2030. But we have maybe something in the region of 10-15%. That is the quickest win, and it's absolutely doable. But we have to work together.
And it has to be deliberate.
It has to be very deliberate.
You talked about, you know, the changing geopolitics. And, you know, when you look at the US, I mean, President Donald Trump has suspended funding to many programs, and agriculture has been badly hit by this. When you look at the European Union, they are also cutting their development support to Africa in many sectors so that they can consolidate their military financing. How bad is the situation?
It's obviously not good. And if we look at the American situation, the sector that's been most affected by the suspense or the withdrawal of US aid is probably the medical sector, and not even the agricultural sector. And that is very, very sad. That day would come one day, but that it would come so abrupt and so unorganized, that's to cry about. Agriculture has also been affected, but a little bit less so. In the area of NGO funding and smallholder support, US aid has been very important, has been instrumental in many areas. If I follow sort of social media and what people are actually saying about sort of the situation that Kenya faces now, it's actually much more resilient and much more optimistic than I could possibly have hoped for. I think the underlying trend is, all right, this is a fact. The private sector will have to move up. It's time to act, right? And there are many, many ideas now being developed to sort of fill that void that the donors are leaving behind. But I do not think that the old days are coming back. We live in a new normal, and we have to get adapted to that.
I mean, look, for anybody involved in progressive planning, I mean, it was evident that you know, the era of begging bowls, you know, we must come to an end at some point, and that's why. In 1995, you know, the Malabo Declaration, you know, talked about increasing funding to agriculture to about 10%. When you look at African countries, the average is 3.54%. If What then do they need to do really to get out of this cycle of begging and finance agriculture to feed their people?
All right, now that's a question I really like very much. So what essentially you're saying is, if you would portray a graph, you would say agriculture as part of GDP is anywhere between 25 and 30%. But if you look at the loan portfolios of banks and microfinance institutions, and you add them all up, then banks would not finance more than 3% of their loan book in agriculture. 3-4%. That's the common thinking. Now, that's been the narrative for many, many years, as long as I've lived in Africa. And I even helped to build that narrative 10, 15 years ago. But we need a new narrative, because A, we actually really don't know to what extent the financial sector finances agriculture. If you look at statistics, there's one line in annual reporting, and it says, I think, forestry and agriculture X%. But nobody knows exactly where that funding is going. To what value chain is it going? Is it going to dairy? Is it going to mango? Is it going to fish farming? Is it going to forestry? We don't know. And we also don't know which part of the value chain actually do receive funding. Is it smallholders, or is it cooperatives? Is it processors? Is it exporters? So what a number of people are now actually thinking about is that we need to tackle this problem of data first and foremost, right? And at present we're working on something called the loan classification system, which means that every loan booked by a bank or a microfinance or a SACCO gets a little tag saying exactly what it is, what sector it belongs to, what value chain and what actor. Once we have that data, now we can really start to think, okay, now how much is going to agriculture? How big is the problem? Is it 3%? Is it 8%? Is it 12%? Because something doesn't gel. Because if it's 3%, how can it be that we still eat every day, right? This problem of data we need to fix first. Now, once we have fixed that, and mind you, this is not something we do in 12 months. This could be a 5-year project.
Yeah.
Then we can have an informed dialogue about how we can boost financing to the agricultural sector.
You come from a country that has some of the best agricultural systems in the world, Netherlands. It's a major producer of dairy products. Kenya is also a major producer of dairy products in Africa. It's one of the big three in that league. What do we need to learn from Netherlands that we can apply here to improve some of our agricultural value chain, like the dairy subsector?
All right, now my fellow Dutchmen are not going to like for what I say right now, but I will say it anyway: do not copy the Dutch model. Be inspired by it, but Holland has driven agriculture production to an industrial scale, right? A very small country, a number times the size of Kiambu, and I think we're the 3rd largest exporter of agricultural produce in the world. But the cost has been very high to the country in terms of ecological considerations. But you can be inspired by the technology that Holland has developed and the way we approach agriculture from many different aspects. And I think you do that. There's a lot of cooperation between academia in the Netherlands, the agricultural business schools, farmers that help here, seed producers. So there's a lot going on. But in the end, Africa is Africa and Kenya is Kenya, and you chart your own way. And we have brilliant people here who will succeed in doing that. Yeah.
So what is the motivation of Mr. Martin leaving Netherlands to come to Kenya for 17 years, leave your banking career to come and get in the muddy field of agriculture?
Oh, that's the best decision I ever took, was coming to Africa. So I came to Africa 17 years ago to start a bank, first in Mozambique, and then I moved to Malawi and worked there for a few years, and then to Uganda, and then finally, about 12 years ago, I came to Kenya. Africa is a fantastic place to be, right? And many people will agree with me who come here and will never leave anymore. It's the people, it's the vibrancy of society, it's the skills levels, it's the education, it's the general optimistic outlook on life. But the biggest thing from a business point of view, there is so much opportunity still here to build country, Kenya especially, from a lower middle income country to a much higher middle income country. This is where you want to be the next 20 years.
You see, when you look at Africa, I mean, it has a lot of fertile lands which is yet to be utilized. It has some of the biggest rivers in the world, you know, River Nile and others. It has lakes. It has oceans. It has rainforests. And the climate conditions are very favorable for farming. Why are we still then hungry as a continent? Why are we food insecure?
Well, that's a good question, and I'm not completely sure how food insecure you are, but certainly in many sectors of society you're certainly not rich. You could be a lot richer than you are, actually, right? I think I come back to what I said in the beginning. It's a lack of coordination. It's a lack of value chain planning. It's a lack of finance that we talked about already before, that we have to address in a much more systematic way. And above all, I repeat it, it's a lack of ambition. We must not view agriculture as a last resort, whereas we really cannot find employment in any other sector, we can still start our shamba and do that. No, agriculture is business. Agriculture means business. And I think you can make a very, very profitable life by building your food system.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. In the interest of time, before I let you go, tell us about the conference which is happening.
Okay, the conference is called FINANCE 25. FINANCE stands for Financing Agri-Food Systems Sustainably. We started that last year in 24, in I believe, March. And now we're going to repeat it towards the end of May. It was an astounding success last year because we brought together over 1,000 sort of representatives for 3 days from government, from the farming sector, from banks, from investors, from lenders. And the idea behind FINANCE is really driving a dialogue towards financing agriculture in a different way and a more sustainable way. The time has never been right. On behalf of the entire conference organization committee, I would say everybody who would like to get involved, contact us through FINANCE 25 on our website or our social media handles. It's going to be a fantastic event by the end of May, 2 days this time, and the interest is already sky high.
Very good. Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Martin, for swinging by and of course for helping us with those technical inputs, and of course let's keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here tonight.
Very good indeed.
Thank you.
And we've been talking to the Managing Director of Moving Frontiers, Martin Susan, joining us here to help us understand the challenges facing the agriculture sector and how to deal with them. And still on the agriculture sector, where Kenya earned 215 billion shillings from tea last year, representing a 9% increase from the previous year. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says the increased earnings were driven by higher export volumes despite a weaker exchange rate and slightly lower global tea prices.
Tea production saw a 4.95% increase, reaching 598.47 million kilograms due to favorable weather conditions, the subsidized fertilizer program and expanded processing capacity. On the export front, Pakistan remained Kenya's largest market, while Egypt and India recorded the highest growth in tea imports. The growth from these markets helped sustain earnings despite fluctuations in the global prices. Additionally, value-added tea exports rose 10%. However, the auction absorption rate declined to 55%, reflecting an oversupply in the market amid reduced demand that contributed to a slight drop in tea prices to an average of 285 shillings per kilo.
As Kenyans, let's every so often look at something positively, no matter how many challenges exist in the industry. There will never be a time when there will not be a challenge or two. But let's look positively. Let's take good news when we can.
In response to ongoing challenges, Kagwe proposed the creation of an agriculture police unit akin to the tourist police unit to protect investments in the tea value chain, citing recent invasions of privately owned tea plantations and factories.
And we have asked the tea board that anybody buying tea from hawkers, wherever you are, we will deregister you. If there is nobody buying stolen tea, nobody is going to steal tea. And that's why you find even these invasions, this tea you are here is being plucked at night. Na mtu hawezi, you cannot go and harvest tea at night, in the middle of the night, and harvest good quality tea.
Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition.
Kupitia star 570 hash tunakupa nafasi ya kuchomoka na this beautiful Mazda Demio. Enjoy a beautiful clean semi-leather interior, low mileage, fuel-efficient 1300cc engine, great for personal use and business. Ukitaka kujishindia gari hii, kucheza ni rahisi sana. Chukua simu yako, bonyeza star 570 hash, chagua option 3. And for only 35 shillings, hii gari inaweza kuwa yako. Kumbuka kucheza mara kadhaa, because the more you play, the higher chances of wewe kuwa mshindi.
Mungu ni mwema, asante Mungu. Ile nitakuwa naendesha hivi.
Dial star 570 hash and make this dream car yours.
Cheza Loto Moto.
The two sessions, China's annual political season, brings together the country's lawmakers and political advisors to chart the way forward for the nation.
It captures global attention as geopolitical and economic tensions rise.
So what impact will this have on Africa?
We take an in-depth look at China's two sessions and explore what lies ahead for Africa.
Join us for a special program on CGTN and the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.
Ima na wendo mwingi tugikuthokia Embu County, the land of opportunities. Kambunene ya Ngemi FM mushi worata.
Twegagure na kamwetha kama vyumeto. Muroro kiande tukunye maire na murori tuthie thokore besa mivukore cha
manje makeyara uranje muri cietu cia thitima na ronje rwathagana nyamu cia kithaka igitugemeria bururi wetu wa mbere Embu County. Ngemi FM tikomono tukianirira na mugambo munene. Eno ni
Ngemi FM
musie wa urata.
Ngemi FM 103.5.
Let's talk about tourism matters, where targeting marketing of attractions around Lake Elementaita should be stepped up to drive up visitors to the area renowned for Stone Age tools. Lake Elementaita Mountain Lodge General Manager Patrick Njoroge is also calling for improvement of road infrastructure to facilitate tourism in the area.
Lake Elementaita Basin has one of the oldest archaeological sites belonging to the Oldowan period, with Stone Age tools dating 700,000 years ago found at Kariandusi. The lake was designated an important bird area and is one of the lakes under the Great Rift Valley World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 2011.
The circuit of Elementaita has more to offer than Naivasha, given that Elementaita we have a conservancy which is I know it's private, probably that's why it is not too much out there. And also there is a prehistoric site which is called Kariadusi.
The lake basin is a wildlife, bird watchers paradise and nature lovers.
We have quite a number of animals, the same animals you find in Lake Nakuru National Park. except for rhinos.
Hospitality industry players believe aggressive branding and marketing of the Lake Elementaita Basin would help drive up tourism traffic to the circuit.
If we highlight some of these cultural heritages that we have around, probably we can pull more travelers on this side. So I think it's an issue of more of marketing of what Elementaita has to offer.
The road network to tourist facilities in the area are seasonal.
Our access has been a challenge for quite some time, but we have really partnered with Nakuru County government under the leadership of Her Excellency Madam Susan Kihika. It's a work in progress. Probably in the next 2-3 years, we were promised the road will be much better than it is now. Though it has also affected our sales and our revenues as well because of the accessibility part of it. But we are doing better than the past 2 years.
Betty Kiptum, Prime Edition.
Elsewhere, unlicensed dealers of petroleum products have been put on notice that they face prosecution. The Cabinet Secretary for Energy, Petroleum, Opiyo Wandayi, says the Ministry, through the Energy, Petroleum and Regulatory Authority, in conjunction with enforcement agencies and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, will begin permanently revoking licenses of organizations selling illicit petrol.
In March last year, the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, in liaison with the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, EPRA, and security agencies, embarked on a rapid result initiative on rogue liquid petroleum gas dealers and petroleum businesses. As a result, a total of 17,958 LPG and 6,188 petroleum facilities were registered. But authorities say unregistered dealers continue operating unlicensed facilities, whose activities, they say, involve refilling and trading of petroleum products illegally, rebranding cylinders without consent, reselling bulk LPG without a license, and transporting bulk LPG without permits.
The law is on our side, and the resolve is now stronger. That going forward, we shall be dealing with such cases of malpractices, of irregularities, of illegalities, very ruthlessly, but in accordance with the law. And EPRA is more than equal to the task.
It's all over the country, so it's really not only on one, because that's one aspect of illegal or siphon of petroleum products. We have illegal LPG, we have vandalism. As the PS was speaking about export of copper and aluminium, yet we are not a mining country. So all those is vandalism of critical infrastructure that is sabotaging the economy.
The Car Safe Mtaani campaign is set to inform constituents on the safe use and handling of energy and petroleum products.
The Car Safe Mtaani campaign has been designed to foster collaboration, strengthen partnerships, and build a coalition committed to improving safety standards in the energy and petroleum sectors.
Alan Auko, Prime Edition.
There is need to align training in institutions of higher learning with global standards to empower Kenyans to tap income-generating activities in the international job market. Water and Sanitation Principal Secretary Julius Correal is challenging institutions to incorporate global best practices and hands-on training to train Kenyans competitively on the labour market internationally. He spoke during the launch of the inaugural Water Sector Job Fair at the Kenya Water Institute.
If there is an opportunity, a Kenyan will be given the job. Why? Because of our attitude to work. So we are working through the management to adjust our training to also enhance that, to help our students or our graduates be able to fit into the world market. So we are working with also KETREP to make KEWI a CBD awarding center, so that those of you who are in the engineering field, after you train here, you will be able to be awarded those professional points, career development points, which will increase your standing in the profession.
Well, and Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization is earmarking 200 acres in each of its large stations to the youth for the cultivation of soya and sunflower. The Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization chairperson Mathenge Dhuo says this is part of the plans to reduce the cost of animal feed and importation of key raw materials for production of edible oil. Dhuo says the research body has released high-yielding new varieties that are being commercialized.
Recruiting 200 youth who will be doing the sunflower, the canola, and also do the soya beans on the side of the production of cooking oil. This one will reduce the importation of the cooking oil. This one will create employment. This will create a healthy nation.
The soybean is a very important crop in this country because of animal feed. You know, currently livestock feed, that's for poultry, for dairy, for beef, are very expensive. This is because most of the protein sources that are used in feed manufacturing is imported.
On to the manufacturing, where the government has disbursed 3.5 billion shillings to micro, small and medium-sized enterprises in key value chains through the Kenya Development Corporations to boost manufacturing activity. A mid-term year review shows that increased lending has enabled small enterprises to expand operations, create jobs and enhance financial resilience. Additionally, 58,630 micro and small enterprises have been advanced capital over the past 2 years under the Financial Inclusion Fund.
Over the last 2 years, the government has rolled out incentives to attract investors to the manufacturing sector while providing affordable financing for micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. These efforts aim to increase exports, create employment opportunities, stimulate economic activity using local resources, and generate attractive returns for investors. According to the midterm review scorecard, the government remains on track to grow the contribution of the manufacturing sector from the current 7.6% to 20% of the GDP by the year 2030. To enhance manufacturing, the government is constructing county aggregation and industrial parks that are expected to enhance value addition, aggregation, and manufacturing, driving economic development across the country. Trade performance has also improved, with exports to the East African community rising 226.4 billion shillings in 2022 to 305.8 billion shillings in 2025. This growth has been driven by resolution of trade barriers affecting tea and other commodities within EAC, COMESA, and African Continental Free Trade Area, streamlining customs, documentation, and harmonizing standards, as well as implementation of the tripartite free trade area. In July 2024, Kenya secured permanent tariff-free access to the 18 trillion euro European Union export market. Additionally, the Kenya-UAE trade agreement signed in January 2025 unlocked opportunities for agricultural exports such as meat, horticulture, flowers and other products into the $5 billion UAE market. Wairi Mujenga for Prime Edition.
6 million farmers have so far been registered by the government as the full rollout of the e-voucher system continues. In its midterm review, the government says the rollout of the e-voucher system is key to the fertilizer subsidy program that it says has increased maize production by 39% and reduced imports by 67% in the last 2 years.
The government has been keen on policies that increase agricultural production to reduce the food import bill. In its midterm review, the government says it anchored its fertilizer subsidy program on farmers' registration exercise to targeted intervention. Already, 6.58 million farmers have been registered under the Kenya Integrated Agriculture Management System, with 53.6 million e-vouchers issued to farmers. The fertilizer subsidy program has helped increase maize production from 61.7 million 50 kg bags in 2022 to 85.7 million bags in 2025. To protect farmers from fluctuating farm prices, the government has extended setting minimum buying price from tea to 5 other value chains, with the latest crop being wheat that was set at 5,300 shillings per 90 kg bag. Increased support for cash crop has seen the acreage under coffee rise to 115,500 hectares from 109,385 hectares in 2022. 49,000 coffee seedlings were distributed in the counties of Nandi, Trans Nzoia, Kericho and Kisumu. On value addition, tea was among the value chain that has undergone policy reforms. The last 2 years has also seen a 189.7% increase in the value of value-added tea from 3.5 billion shillings to 10.14 billion shillings as capacity for MSMEs in the specialty tea was enhanced. Plans are underway to increase tea incubation centers to train MSMEs on specialty tea production and value addition. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Well, you have been watching the Prime Edition live here from Broadcasting House. I mean, we've taken you through general news, business news. It's time now to take you to the sports news, and that is happening after this short break.
Jet A1, cheza avieta bila data bila credo. Dial *892# for instant takeoff. Pepea bila pressure kucrash au kucash out. Avieta bila data, avieta bila credo. Uko na kabambe, wewe pia ni rubani mnoma. Dial *892#. Jet A1, michezobets.com. Cheza kwa kuwajibika. Kushiriki ni miaka 18 au zaidi. BCLB license number 0000664.
Chance goal! Cote d'Ivoire are back in the game! The FIFA World Cup 2026 Africa qualifiers match schedule is up for match day 5. In Group F, the Gambia will host Harambee Stars on Thursday, the 20th of March from 10 p.m.
Shown, and which may show here. And yes, the breakthrough's there for Kenya.
Catch the action live from Alassane Ouattara Stadium in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, live and exclusive. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahome and welcome to Prime Edition Sport. Cabinet Secretary for Sport Salim Mvurya today made another inspection tour at the KICC Stadium in Kiambu County. Mvurya's visit opened the gate of the stadium that had been closed for more than a year, despite the 80% renovations being done, with the remaining works to be completed in about 2 months.
Completion of the KICC Stadium in Kiambu is expected before September this year, after the government settled the remaining dues for the completion of the football ground that has remained in the same state for more than a year.
First of all, we are very happy that most of the key sections have been done very well. The changing rooms, the VVIPs, the canopies and the terraces. You can also see this is a lot of good work that has gone on. But as government, we are concerned that this has taken too long without operationalization.
It had also been closed but was reopened today following a visit by the Cabinet Secretary for Sports Salim Mvurya, accompanied by PS for Sports Peter Tum and Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi, who resolved the standing issues that had forced the closure of the stadium.
What we have agreed from today is that the Sports Kenya will gain access, the county government will gain access, because we need to do the field to FIFA and CAF standards. And that is work which should begin any time from next week. We'll have a team that will be coming here to ensure that they do the landscaping, they do the required grass, and they work together with the contractor to make sure that the grass is properly irrigated.
The inspection follows the tour of Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay last week as the government continues to upgrade sporting facilities in the country in an effort to develop the immense talents available in Kenya.
It is mistaken. People think that Kiambu people are only business people, that we are only interested in money and pesa. We also sport a lot. We have some of the most recognizable teams. We have teams that play in the National League from Kiambu, here in Thika, here in also in Kiambu, and definitely those are going to be some of our beneficiaries.
The facility is yet to have seats installed, and the playing surface is also yet to be relayed.
This specific one, we are concentrating on it because it has been taken as a training ground for Chan in August. And that is why the grass must grow, and that is why the contractor must be out of sight, for us now to be able to prepare it for that competition.
Earlier, CS Mvurya met with Deputy Chief of Staff Eliud Owalo to discuss preparations for the hosting of the Africa Nation Championship and the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations.
As a ministry, we are now on board, to work on a concept that will see how we are going to manage and maintain our sports facilities across the country.
The discussions were majorly based on the progress of construction of the Talanta Stadium on Ngong Road, the upgrading of the Kasarani Anyao National Stadium, and the establishment of sports academies in different parts of the country.
Moving on from football, is that Naivasha is buzzing with activity as the World Rally teams prepare reconnaissance cars for route familiarization ahead of the WRC Safari Rally Kenya. Freight containers for Toyota Gazoo Racing and Hyundai Motorsports have been offloaded at the Wildlife Research and Training Institute Service Park, the rally's nerve center. The Service Park manager, Joe Mushiri, said the headquarters will be fully operational on Sunday as the teams get to work on their cars in readiness for Monday and Tuesday's recce. The drivers will be heading to Sleeping Warrior for 5 km shakedown on Wednesday. The WRC Safari Rally Kenya officially begins on Thursday next week with a ceremonial start at City Hall Way in Nairobi, while KICC will serve as a holding area for the rally cars. The championship will conclude on Sunday at Hell's Gate with the power stage offering additional championship points to the fastest 5 crews. The rally village at Morendat Farm, on the other hand, will serve as a 4-day fun hub featuring driver interactions, car displays, and live race screening. 2 new stages, Mzabibu and Kamoran, have been introduced and promise to spice up this year's competition.
All the containers have come for the Toyota. Hyundai also, they are here. We are waiting now for the Ford M-Sports, which are on the way coming to the service park. Service park by Sunday, it will be full operational, and all sectors, all departments, they'll have come back now to the main HQ, because service park, it's the nerve center of the WRC 2025.
Now, Kenya Prisons women have qualified for the quarterfinals of the inaugural Kenya Volleyball Kenya Cup after defeating Post Bank in straight sets in Pool A of the tournament, which resumed today at the Kasarani Indoor Arena. Prisons began the game on a high and won the first set 25-18 before they lost concentration in the second, where they were taken to task before they eventually won 25-23. They regained their momentum to win the third set 25-17 and secure a deserved victory and a place in the quarters. Postbank will hope to bounce back in their final pool match against DCI on Sunday morning. In the men's matches played at the same arena, GSU extended their winning run when they beat APK in straight sets, while KPA were also in imperious form, beating Kenya Army in straight sets. Trailblazers overcame Chama Steel 3-2 in another hard-fought match. Kenya has selected a team of 10 athletes for the 2025 World Indoor Championships, slated for the 21st to the 23rd of this month in Nanjing, China. The national 800 meters champion Lilian Odira headlines the women's team, where she will make her debut after getting a taste of the Olympic Games in Paris. She'll be joined by Vivian Chebet, who will be making her second appearance in the World Indoor Championships after a fourth finish last year. Piritika Juju Getonga will be the Lone Ranger in the 3,000-meter race after her exploits in the pre-DA 10-kilometer road race, where she finished second. Dorcas Kaboloni, Ewoy, and Olympian Susan Ejore will complete in the 1,500 meters, as will Festus Lagat in the men's race. Noah Kibet will spearhead the men's challenge in the 800 meters, hoping for a victory after he stepped for silver in 2022 and will be joined by compatriots Collins Kipruto and Alex Ngeno in that race. The 3,000 meters men's race will also feature one Kenyan, Cornelius Kemboi, who is the African 5,000 meters bronze medalist. And that's the sport for tonight. And remember, we are building up to a Super Sunday at the Nyayo National Stadium. Kenya versus Uganda. And this is the second round of qualification for the Women's Under-17 World Cup. We already have a 2-0 lead as Kenyans. Can we do that? Show up and we'll tell you the story and lots more sport to talk about. My name is Daniel Wahome. Back to you, O'Brien Kimani.
Well, tell me now, to call it a night, I mean, we've been here for long. The last 1.5 hours, I mean, giving you nothing but the best in sort of news. Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight. We look again to seeing you again tomorrow, same time, right here on KBC Channel 1. Our sign language interpreter, Brian Muraru, together with the entire production team, thank you very much indeed for your time. Have a good night.
Inuka na Loto Moto sasa kwa star 570 hash option ya 4 kuna kashamba juja na nika 50 by 100 worth 1.7 million Kenyan shillings. Na hii si shamba tu, iko kwa prime location few minutes from Juja Town. Stima yako iko ndani na kama ni development rapid and so promising. Na mambo ya landlord mwisho wa mwanzo ni hapa. Ukishinda hili shamba tunakuongeza 1 million Kenyan shillings ujijengee nyumba yako kwa shamba yako. Kuinuka na Loto Moto ni kucheza sasa hivi kupitia star 570 hash option ya 4 au register deposit na ucheze sasa hivi kwa www.tushinde.com na ujishindie shamba hili na addition of 1 million Kenyan shillings. Inuka na Loto Moto!
From the bliss of new beginnings to the trials of commitment, this is a celebration of resilience, passion, and the power of togetherness. Join us as we unravel real-life stories, because every journey deserves to be cherished, for better, for worse, on KBC Channel 1.
The two sessions, China's annual political season, brings together the country's lawmakers and political advisors to chart the way forward for the nation.
It captures global attention as geopolitical and economic tensions rise.
So what impact will this have on Africa?
We take an in-depth look at China's secession and explore what lies ahead for Africa.
Join us for a special program on CGTN and the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.
Chance, goal! Cote d'Ivoire are back in the game!
The FIFA World Cup 2026 Africa qualifiers match schedule is up for match day 5. In Group F, the Gambia will host Harambee Stars on Thursday, the 20th of March from 10 p.m.
Shown, and which may show here. And yes, the breakthrough's there for Kenya.
Catch the action live from Alassane Ouattara Stadium in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, live and exclusive. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Jet A1, cheza aviator bila data bila credo. Dial *892# for instant takeoff. Pepea bila pressure kucrash au kucash out. Aviator bila data, aviator bila credo. Uko na kabambe, wewe pia ni rubani mnoma. Dial *892#. Jet A1, michezobet.com. Cheza kwa kuwajibika. Kushiriki ni miaka 18 au zaidi. BCLB license number 0000664.